2024 70.3 Eagleman. Got to give everyone props and some recognition for this. We are recording this in the middle of April here for a race is going to be taking place almost 2 full months later. So definitely, congrats on that. That is how it should be. Race director Angie definitely deserves some recognition there. So congrats, thank you from on behalf of all of us. This is awesome. So scrolling down here, we have a ton to talk about here. Friday, June 7th, things kick off 1:30 to 7:30. We have the shuttle bus service starting because athlete check-in happens on 2 to 7 p.m. at Gary Boyle State Park. And the Ironman Athlete Village is also open there with two athlete briefings happening, one at 3 and one at 5 Saturday. We also have our second opportunity for athlete check-in at 9 to 4 with those shuttle bus services running 8 to 5, so pretty much all day. We also have mandatory bike and gear check-in. We also have timing chip pickup as well. That happens from 10 to 4:30 p.m. So you do have the ability to check in on Saturday and also drop off your bike. When you do drop off on your bike, you will pick up your timing chip. It's not going to be included in the athlete check-in. They're two separate things. Athlete briefings happen at high noon. There's a first-timer question and answer happening at 1, another athlete briefing happening at 2, and a Women for Try Q&A happening at 3 p.m. all in the same spot, Gary Boyle State Park. Sunday, race day. Shuttle bus services start up at 4:30 a.m. and they will stop at 5:30. Transition is open from 4:45 a.m. to 5:50 because our race start happens at 6 a.m. Information tent's going to be available all day, 8 to 4 p.m. Post-race food, 11 to 4:30. Bike and gear checkout, 1:15 to 4:30. And our award ceremony for our 70.3 World Championship slots happening at 3:30 p.m. And again, pretty much everything here is happening at Gary Boyle State Park, aside from the shuttle bus services, which do happen at the middle school. Athlete check-in, page 5. Already listed the dates. Make sure you are bringing your photo ID, your passport, your active.com registration QR code. This is a mouthful there. Athlete check-in steps, again, located on page 5, about halfway down. Bring your QR code, show your ID, show your active QR code, and to the volunteers there. Receive all of your fixins and any giveaway items there. New information here, medical information. Please stop by and let someone know if you do have something that is potentially worrisome for race day. They're also going to ask you to write down the details of your medical condition on the back of your athlete bib, which you will receive in your race packet. Again, definitely do not skip doing this, just in case. There's also a whole other page, which we'll talk about in a second here, that is also new. Your race packet is going to include a number of things. The first is your race bib to be worn on the run, bike and helmet stickers, swim cap, bike checkout ticket, and your athlete wristband. Please do not cut that off before you are 100% sure that your weekend is over and you have all of your materials and you are driving away. Bike stickers that you're going to receive that you have to put on are on your bike frame, also your helmet, and then you're also going to have to put a small one on your bike stem. If you're not sure what that is, make sure you ask at athlete check-in. Also, another thing, this has happened in a couple other races this year, you are not allowed to have any other stickers on your bike from previous races, and you're going to be asked to remove those stickers. Pre-race info located on page 6. This talks about the physical address, which is Gary Boyle Park. Camping and RV information there. We have Ironman Village mandatory bike check-in, which happens Saturday from 10 to 4:30. In transition, all bikes must be checked in at 4:30. They do have to spend the night in the state park. There's no exceptions there. And you cannot remove the bike from the transition after being racked. You'll have access to the bikes at 4:45, starting at 4:45 on race morning, but you will not be allowed to remove your bikes from transition until the start of the bike portion of the race if something does happen. Helmets and cycling shoes can also be brought into the transition race morning. Helmets and shoes may be clipped or attached to the bike, which is a huge thing. Make the transitions a little bit faster if you're into that kind of thing. You are not allowed, or you are allowed to cover your seats and computers only from inclement weather while the bike is spending the night. Bike covers are not allowed and will be removed, as is customary. The pre-event swim advisement. They just want to let everybody know that swimming is allowed in the area over there, but keep an eye out for ships, marine life, and also other things on the sea floor. They don't inspect the area. Before race day. That's a race morning procedure. They make sure everything is safe, ready to rock and roll, and then they allow all the swimmers to get in. There is going to be a designated swim practice area to the west of the course, and that is in Hembrooks Bay. If there are jellies, they are going to be clustered in that section over there because the way the currents work. So just be mindful of that. It might not always be beneficial to get that final practice swim in if you are going to be stung by 1,000 jellyfish. So keep an eye out on race weekend if that is the case. And if so, I would probably pass. I mean, it's jellyfish, it's not really a huge deal. And there's all kinds of other strategies you can use to help with that. Um, Also, swimming in the course, or excuse me, swimming in the swim course or from the boat ramp is not permitted. So you're not allowed to use that boat ramp on race week. So just be aware of that. Last big thing on the swim, if you do a practice swim race morning and decide not to race, please turn your timing chip in to an official staff member as soon as possible so you can be accounted for. And they always want you to swim with one other person or let someone know specific information about your swim. Say, I'm going to be back at this time. I'm expecting to do this. I'll text you. And that way, if you don't get a text or if you don't see that person, you can alert the proper personnel. Parking and shuttles are located on page 6. This is a free shuttle info. The shuttle service parking starts on Friday, 1 to 3 or 1:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and that is at St. Paul's UMC. There's also going to be Saturday and Sunday available from Macy's Lane Middle School. That's also going to happen from Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 4:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. It's not super far on the shuttle. You'll be surprised you get there pretty quick, and they're usually really good about getting back and forth pretty quick as well. Um, Athlete and bike check-in. Again, strongly recommend the use of the shuttle service on Friday and Saturday. What some people do is I'm not recommending this, but I'm just saying that some people do park at the middle school, ride their bikes with all their stuff over, check in, and then just get the shuttle back to the middle school. A little pro tip for you. Make sure you don't park in a no parking zone because they will actively be towing and it is quick out there. On race day, again, shuttle services are going to be your best bet to roll around here. And you can also scan this code on page 7 for the venue map, which is really cool. Race day info located on page 9. Race morning procedures. Transition is going to open at 4:45 and it's going to close at 5:50. So a little bit more than an hour. Make sure you plan accordingly. Do not wear your bib in the swim. It will disintegrate and it's not going to work out for you on the run. Leave it with your gear and put it on before you head out of the run course instead. Excuse me. Body marking. There is no body marking at this race, probably the foreseeable future. Here, aid stations are approximately every 15 miles on the bike and about a mile apart on the run. They list the general offerings, which is very curious here. Water, drink mix, Morton gel, bars, and fruit. If you've been following everything, there is Mortal hydration as well. Ask what's going to be on course. I know this is getting released about 2 months in front of the race, which is great. But as we look ahead to other races that are coming up on the calendar, it's kind of still a question mark what's actually happening on course. There's Gatorade, there's Mortal. If it is Mortal, just be aware that it doesn't have a ton of calories in it, which could be a bad thing later on in the race. You might think you're fueling with adequate calories, and in fact, you are not. Gatorade drink, ask what that is. Is that standalone Gatorade? If it is, you're going to have to plan accordingly as well. So in this race, probably all the other races on the calendar right now, I would just plan to bring a ton of stuff and adjust based off of what they say race or when you do check in. If it is regular Gatorade, that just changes things a bit. It's not Gatorade Endurance. On the run, they're going to have everything about a mile apart on those aid stations with water, Gatorade, drink again, cola, Morton gels, bars, chips, pretzels, fruits, all that good stuff. And again, probably mortal hydration. Timing chip must be worn on your left ankle, and you will not receive it in your packet at Athlete Check-in. You are going to receive your timing chip when you do check in your bike the following day or day before the race. Again, more race day information coming up on page 11. Race timing and cutoffs: 8.5 hours is our time to beat. Swim is 1:10. The bike is 5 hours and 30 minutes, and the run is 8 hours and 30 minutes. You can read about the specific places to be at the specific times. There are going to be transition cutoffs as well. For example, the transition one is going to close 10 minutes after the swim course cutoff. So you have 10 minutes after the bike course cutoff as well. Wetsuit optional races: if the temperature on race morning measures above 76.1 degrees but less than 83.8, you are going to be allowed to wear your wetsuit if you do not want to be eligible for awards. Race timing, timing and results, all of that good stuff. A couple of acronyms you need to know: DNS is it did not start, DSQ is disqualified, DNF is it did not finish, and NC is not classified. Race day health info. This is our other new page on page 12 that I talked about earlier. I'm going to read a couple of things verbatim here, and I'm going to skim over because you can read this on your own. They are just telling everyone that if you do feel unwell at any point in the race, make sure that you are stopping and you are letting someone know. Most times the issue can be fixed, but if not, it's best to just have some medical info or just medical help when you can. So during the swim, just raise your hand and that will signal an alert and someone will come to you. You can also verbalize that you are in need of help by yelling the word help. You can grab onto the kayak or paddleboard near you, but you will not be disqualified for grabbing onto it, but you will be disqualified if you do use that as an aid to propel yourself forward. On the bike, if you're not feeling well, stop at the nearest aid station and alert someone, medical staff, volunteer, anyone, and have them alert the nearest medical aid assistant member. On the run, same thing. Stop at an aid station if you can. And just let someone know you're not feeling so great. And if you are an athlete and you see another athlete in need, they are encouraging you now to help that other athlete out. You will not be disqualified or receive a penalty for assisting a fellow athlete in medical need. On the bike and the run course, make sure to provide the bib number of the athlete in need of help to the personnel. And if you do finish the race and you are not feeling great, they tell you to not leave the finish area, the post-race area, until you are able to drink without vomiting, stand without dizziness, or just feel generally okay. If you're not feeling well, please come to the event. Medical tent to be evaluated by the medical team before leaving the recovered area. One of my races, I stayed in the finish area for a couple of hours before I felt any better, and I'm so glad that I did. It just allows you to get all of your stuff figured out and just feel better. Relay info is located on page 13, so if you're into that, check that out. Post-race info on page 15, like bike and gear checkout. This is from 1:15 to 4:30 p.m. Make sure you check out there. If you are not checking out, make sure you have provided your bike checkout ticket to someone that you trust. Award ceremony for our 70.3 slot allocations are happening at 3:30 p.m. That is pending the final finisher, so it can be adjusted either way. Just make sure you are aware of that and checking in with the area. They typically don't start it like an hour ahead of time, but they have been known to start it a little bit early here or there. They also reserve that right to start it a little bit later, which also happens a fair amount as well. Scrolling down here, the qualifying criteria is listed on page 17. Again, the biggest thing you need to know about if you're first or second in your age group is showing up at 3:30 p.m. Because they will present no later than 3:45. That's the latest they plan to start. You can also see on race morning, they'll release some of those qualifying numbers. So the best thing you can do on race day is crush it. And if you do, then you can worry about all the logistics later. Scrolling down here, we can finally start getting into our swim course specifics. This is a rolling start here. The park over here, Gary Boyle Park, this is where our transition is located, and this is where our swim start is. Typically, the corrals happen here, going this way, but it can change from year to year, so make sure you are just taking note of things a day or two before that race. For our first couple of let's call it probably until the end over here. What's going to happen is this is a very shallow start, and it doesn't drop off immediately either. So some athletes will find that they are walking way longer than they anticipated on race day. If you are not in the first wave, make sure you're watching to see when people start their swim. You will see people at this race starting their swim and then standing immediately back up and walking or running or shuffling another couple of meters before they actually start swimming again. This is just because it is shallower in this section over here. In years past, if this was the exit, we would tell you to dolphin dive out because it's kind of shallow here. So what that means for you is that everyone is going to be bunched up no matter what you do here. Front runners, mid packers, back of the packers, everyone's just going to be bunched up because they're not really able to swim yet. So a lot of people, this is where they start now, those panicking thoughts. This is where their mind starts to race. But just keep in mind that everybody has to do this exact same thing. If you lose 4 seconds here, that's not going to make or break your day, hopefully. And also, if you gain 4 seconds in this section of our swim, again, normally that's not going to break the bank, so you really have to gauge your effort and move smart here. Don't overdo it. Be very conscientious of how much effort you are putting out to go that speed. And if at any point, you start tipping the scales in terms of I'm putting out max effort and I'm going barely anywhere, maybe you need to throttle back that effort level at this section of our race. Because as we get further and further out, we're going to start to experience the currents a little bit more. But more importantly, we're going to be able to swim here. Probably from the start of this arrow onward, and you will be swimming for the remainder of the race. As we get down to this first turn over here, because of the nature of the first half here, this second half will be spread out a little bit, but not as much as in normal races, okay? Everyone's still kind of on top of each other, which makes this first turn very, very, very chaotic and hectic. Everyone's battling, and they are ready to fight at this corner here. And as you peel away from this corner out into, let's call it the main channel over here, this is going to be where you're going to start to experience those currents a little bit more. On race day, those currents are going to be pushing in a clockwise fashion or in a counterclockwise fashion on race day. So I'm going to run you through two separate scenarios. The first scenario here is if we are experiencing some of those head currents, right? When we get over here, because of the swirl that happens over here, if it is a clockwise swirl, this whole section is going to be into the current, and it will probably be one of your tougher sections out there. And again, this is only going to keep people further and further into the race, and they're going to be more compact than usual. So by the time they get to this turn again, it's going to be a bit of a battle here. And when you are coming in here, you're going to have to work a little bit to get into that that T1 over here, the boat ramp, the finish of our swim. Now, if it's the opposite way, we talked about if the current is going this way, but let's talk about if the current is going with you on race day. So what that's going to do is a couple different things. Again, on this first turn buoy, it's still going to be packed. Just expect it, okay? But what's going to happen on this second straightaway right here is things are going to start to spread out very, very quickly, all right? And on the second turn buoy, it's going to be a lot less busy. And then on this third straightaway, you're going to start to fly on there. And again, because the nature of us, if some is good, more is better, which will typically be going through your mind. And if this is the case and you are flying in this section, just let the water keep pushing you down and let it doing the work for you. All right. Because again, if you get out of the water, let's say 10 seconds, 30 seconds faster, but you had to do a ton more work to do it. Again, pros and cons on race day. You want to kind of save a couple of those matches and if it is a tail current and you are a stronger swimmer, you're just going to kind of have to eat that a little bit. You're not going to get as much benefit from being that stronger swimmer on race day. Sorry, hate to break it to you. Last section over here, this can be a challenging section on race day depending on what the currents are doing or the wind, right? This can be pushing you one of two different ways. It can be going out, you can be going in, but most times, unless it's a very, very calm day, you're going to be having to aim to the right or to the left of that finish line to get you back straight at least. And that's something that you can gauge and watch people in the practice swims on the day before, leading up to it, kind of calculate it a little bit. And on race morning, you can just fly through a little bit easier. One thing we did not talk about yet, and that is the wind on race day. Depending on what happens, it could be very, very choppy, a little top current from the wind, which will change a couple of different things. Biggest strategy I can tell you now, because we are 2 months out, awesome, Angie, is that I would practice breathing both ways, to the right and to the left, just in case we do have those white caps coming to you from the right-hand side, and if you are a right-handed breather, it's going to be not very good. But if you have that ability to shift and become a left-sided breather, it's going to be happy days for you. You're not going to swallow any seawater, and you won't have to worry about that extra stuff afterwards. Page 20, we talk about the Roka swim course that talks about wetsuit rules. 76.1 and below is the magical number. 76.1 to 83.8 is optional without awards. And then above that, it's not allowed. And they also break that down for you right here. They also talk about a couple of rules. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to read those rules. Scrolling down here, we do have, let's zoom out a little bit for you if we can. There we go. All right, so on page 24, we have our bike course, and now we're going to dive into some more nitty-gritty details of this course. So heading over, bike course hasn't changed in a long, long time, and this is our course. And from the power profile, I'll take speed and elevation away so you can just see exactly what I'm talking about. This is a mock simulation right here of an athlete. And one thing that you'll notice from this course is that our power profile is pretty even over here. So this athlete's doing 197. That's going to jump up to 208, 200, back to 197, 205, 212, 218, and then it kind of staggers for the finish over here. So as you can see, this is a pretty even power. Perfect race to train for on the trainer for a number of reasons, which we'll get into in a second. Bringing back our elevation, this blue line over here, this is what you're going to expect on race day. So a little decline once you get to the bottom down here, and then gradually incline as it gets back. This is going to be our speed, which again, you can see there is going to be a steady decline of speed, which is at least normal. And again, this could change on race day. So this doesn't have to be what it is on race day. This is just what is typically observed on race day. There could be a storm front coming through that will make this opposite. There could be winds coming from a different angle when right now the model is showing, or is what typically happens is it comes from that northwest area. Okay, just to kind of draw that out for people, it is coming from around this direction on race day, which means that this section, right out of the gate, this section on the bottom of the backside of our race course is going to be pretty fast. And again, this is, let's quote unquote, normal. Also, this section right through here, after you get out of the golf course area, the foresty area, that section almost always fast section unless something weird is happening, okay? And there's going to be a couple other things which we will dish on in a second. So let's go to our time analysis feature here, and let's do a 5% increase, which is going to net us, about 3 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes, somewhere in there. On race day, it's going to be faster if we go 5% harder. But one thing that you will see are these sections are massive. So if you are going 5% harder, you're just going to pretty much do 5% harder over the entire course of the race, not just in specific places to save some sections or seconds here or there. Aside from the last, let's call it 7-8 miles, that's going to be an easy area to gain some time on competitors. But again, just like we talked about on the swim, pros and cons on race day. You don't want to overdo those last 8-10 miles and kind of eat your run a little bit. just to gain a couple of seconds on the bike. But again, that's kind of an individual basis thing. So let's go back to our power plan and talk about some areas and reasons for what is going on here. So let's go. This is the this is not best bike split. This is the Ride with GPS bike file over here. All right. And this is, again, it matches up very well, even though that other one was created in 2014. Nothing's really changed out there. Okay. Elevation, we have about 300 feet of elevation, which is why this is an enticing environment for first timers or athletes who really want to see just how fast they can go. But the biggest thing you're going to have to worry about on race day is the wind, like we talked about up here, the wind. Um, Athletes can get sucked in just riding that aero position for pretty much the race entirety here, outside of a couple of turns once they get out of the neighborhoods. And then once they get onto that main circle, there's really, let's call it 3 turns out there. It's not a lot. You can do, if you know the roads, you can do most of them in the aero position for the most part, aside from 1, maybe 2, depending on your speed on race day. And because athletes get locked in over here, that does a couple of things. First off, when you do lock yourself in, you typically forget to eat or drink, or one of the two, or both. Number two that this does is it highly affects your run. Okay, do not lock yourself into a single position, because when you get out of it, it's going to take your body a little bit to get out of it. Which sounds silly and sound, of course, but it's different once you get out there. Okay. Don't be afraid to get out of that aero position, get up on the hood, stomp around for 4, 5, 10 seconds, and just slide back into that aero position. Fuel out of the aero position, whatever you need to do to get out of it every 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. This athlete here, this is going to take them 2 hours and 40 minutes. So if they get out every 10 minutes, it's not going to be very many times they're getting out of that aero position. um, Another thing that I would do is I would actually encourage you to drive this course specifically for this turn right here, and also this turn right there. These turns do come up pretty quickly, especially this turn right here. The Ironman people are going to be doing some cooler things, which we will dish on in a couple of seconds, to alert you that a turn is coming. But those turns, especially the one right at the this side of our course right here, comes up very, very quickly, and it's not uncommon for athletes to get into a little bit of trouble right there, slamming on the brakes, locking their bike up, that kind of thing. But hopefully this year it will be a little bit better, a little bit more notice for you. So where would I do some attacking over on this course? First things first, this tailwind section, I would just ride it. I would just go fast here. I wouldn't use that as an attack point per se. My attack point would probably be the second side of our circle over here, circle-ish. The reason is this first section over here, you're gonna have a crosswind coming from the dirty side of the bike, at least usually. Everyone's effort level is still going to be relatively high here, so you can kind of catch some people napping on this back section. If your group is kind of napping, feel free to kind of push the pace a little bit over here. But an area where most people do get in trouble on this race course is the first couple of miles right in there. And even once you get past the golf course, people are still going a little crazy. And that really lasts until you get probably just onto the official circle part of our course here. Um, and it's just because of the way the wind is. I mean, everyone's still kind of bunched up from the swim. You'll see you get out with a bunch of people and you're just around everyone and you feel like, I gotta get away, I gotta get away. Um, I would kind of welcome that feeling for the first couple of miles on the bike, unless your group is going really slow. I would kind of leave them. But if your group is going on a good little clip here and you say, wow, this is pretty good pace, I would kind of stick with that group on race day and kind of see what happens leading up to this corner piece right here before you get onto the main circle right there. Last big area where I would kind of give you a bit of a green light to kind of push the pace is once you get past the high school. This little section right through here, you're almost always going to have a headwind right here. I don't know why. It's not science. It's just what it is. If we did want to get into a little bit more science here from a wind perspective, all right, we have this channel where wind can be going up and down. We also have a bunch of these other inlets where wind kind of goes here and wind is coming over here. And if you've noticed, a lot of these arrows are going in the same direction. They're meeting up at some point, which will create a swirling effect, just like on our swim. That swirl can go, of course, one of two different ways, and it doesn't always have to swirl. It can stop, it can go the way it is predicted to go, and then it will swirl, and then it might swirl the other way. So expect the wind to be kind of battling you a little bit out there. Watch the grass, watch other people in front of you, watch flags if there's any flags out there, watch what's happening on the road debris in front of you, and you can get a good gauge of what's at least usually happening out there on race day. And after that, I would take those swirls with kind of a grain of salt. They're going to happen. It is what it is out there. Anyone who's ridden out there will know that. Will see that. But watch the people in front of you and see what's happening just from a at least normal standpoint out there when you are gauging the wind. And do not feel like once you gauge the wind and figure it out in the first 5 miles, you're done. You're not. It is a continuous thing when you're out there on race day. You're constantly going to be going through and seeing what is going on, where is the wind coming from, what does that mean for me? And if you remember what this course looks like in your head when you're out there on race day, it's going to be very, very helpful for you. All right. So now let's keep going, and I'm going to show you some of the other cooler things that Ironman is doing. I'm going to skip ahead and I'm going to come back. So this is new this year. Again, these are some directional signs. They will hopefully be placed out further ahead so you will know exactly what's happening. There's going to be black signs with white letter or white numbers or letters, symbols, telling you what is about to happen. Every time you come to an aid station, these aid stations are going to say, caution, there's an aid station coming. That means slow down a little bit. There's going to be a last chance trash section for you to dump your trash. There's also going to be a red banner here that says, no more trash. If you are caught littering after this no more trash banner, you will receive a penalty. There's going to be bump signs. There's going to be a caution slow. There's going to be one of my favorite new things is a bike cutoff banner. You must be here at X time for you to be able to proceed. If you are not here at X time, you cannot proceed. Also, we're going to have full gas mile markers. I think it's kind of funny that they do have a little mountain on them because this is the exact opposite of a mountain course. But they're going to be in 5 mile increments. There's also going to be course arrows on the ground as well. So really no excuse for kind of missing a turn here. Full gas bike course located on page, actually, we are skipping way ahead here. Last thing that we are talking about on our course profile are these aid stations here. This M indicates a Morton station as well. So there's going to have water, they're going to have Morton. Again, ask at the athlete check-in what they're going to have. Is it going to be Morton drink? Is it going to be gel? What is happening on race day? And you can get a little bit more info of what is specifically offered at each aid station. There is one here, and I would classify this aid station, this first one, as a no-miss aid station. And if you do accidentally skip this one, then this second one becomes a very, very high priority. There's 1, 2 at the bottom, and 3 right before the high school over here. In my hand, all 3 aid stations, you need to be grabbing something. If it's not water, it's food, it's something else. And if you are a faster athlete, you can kind of gauge it a little bit differently. If you're a mid-packer, then again, these 3 aid stations become a little bit more crucial. If you're a back of the packer, all of these are no-miss aid stations, so do not fly through the aid stations. Make sure you're stopping, getting your liquids, make sure you're getting your nutrition, and ask those questions at athlete check-in. Page 27, we have the bike course rules. Definitely, I'm not going to read all of these, but you definitely need to read all of them so you know what is going to happen. The draft zone is 12 meters long or 6 bike lengths in between you and the person in front of you. Overtaking has to happen in a span of 25 seconds, and if you are unable to pass in 25 seconds, then you are going to receive a drafting violation, right? Because once you enter that zone, you have to be confident that you are going to pass the person in front of you. If you do get overtaken, then you do have 25 seconds to fall back, and if you don't fall back, you are going to receive, I believe it's a blocking penalty, and you are going to have to stop at the penalty tent, which is another question you need to ask. Where is that on race day? I wish that these course maps would indicate or denote where the penalty tent is. If you do get your penalty in between the penalty tent and transition two, you're gonna have to serve it at transition two before heading out onto the run. All right. We're going to talk about what the blue cards and the yellow cards are. Page 28 also has additional rules. Highlighted is you are not allowed to cycle with a bare torso. Scrolling down onto page, I believe it is, I won't eat my words here, but I believe it is 35. Yep, 35, we have our run course, which is a two-loop out and back run course, slightly different this year, and this is our run course in a nutshell right here. We have 156 feet of elevation gain, and we're going to talk about how to attack this for race day success. So let me get my proper tools here, and first mile here. We do have a slight hill coming out of transition. Again, slight, very, very slight. Biggest thing that is going to be an issue on race day, if it is sunny, is going to be the heat. If it is sunny and not, if it is sunny, you might not be having the race of your life out here just because the temperatures do skyrocket very, very quickly. This is a race that is typically associated with kind of the death march theme if it is hot in any capacity out here. Just because the heat stays, it gets humid, and it will feel very, very hot very, very quickly out there. So for that first mile, you just need to gauge yourself and just kind of ease your way into it. After that, during this section from mile 1 to 5, this is our establishing section here. This is our point at which we're starting to run again, and we're gauging our effort. We're seeing what happened on the bike, what happened with my nutrition. Is this a pace I can hold for the duration of the run? What's going on with my heart rate? What's my cadence like? You're figuring everything out during this section here. And this is very, very important. If you arrive at this area and you say, wow, I am going way too fast. I don't think I can hold that for the remainder. Slow down. Slow down. Because this race is so flat, everyone just assumes I'm going to get a PR. I'm going to nail my PR time. Here it is. And that is for sure not always the case. And it is almost entirely because of these first, let's call it 5 miles here, but also because of what happened on the bike that everyone just forgets about, right? You've ran in the heat before, you've ran in the wind. So you need to be aware of what your effort level was out there and what you did with that. How much water, liquid, food, hydration, any of that you did on race day. Coming back in this section over here, if we get out of here, this is going to be one of the more challenging sections of our race course. You're going to see people coming out over here. We do have a little hill over here, and during this section right over here, it's going to always be windy no matter what. So just expect that. If it is a little bit of a cooler day, fingers crossed for you, that section can be very, very cold just because the wind just continuously blows there. This downhill is going to be a welcome sight for a little bit, and if we highlight this section here, this is I mean, barely anything when you think about it. But in reality, this is about a half a mile section here. And we do drop down 21 feet. But what the problem with this hill is it ends right before this little inlet right here. So the wind is also there, but it kind of opens up, the shade disappears, and it becomes very, very hot down there. So run down this downhill, and it's a feeling of awesomeness. And then immediately when you get to the bottom, it's just a feeling of just like it's usually a heat bubble right there. And this is very dejecting for a lot of athletes. You'll see a lot of athletes going out and coming back, walking through that section right there. And then we are going to do a turnaround block right through there. And we're going to repeat the exact same course over here. There's a couple different wiggles and waggles, this little section right through here. If we go and we look at let's zoom in for you guys. If we do look at our run course in a little bit more detail, we can see a couple of different things. First off, this aid station, you are not going to be able to get it coming out of transition. The first aid station for you is going to happen after mile 1, which is right here on that Riverside Drive. afterwards, this little chicane that we experience right through here is going to be filled with another aid station, which is also a Morton aid station. And then we do our out and back. And on the far side, of course, we have another aid station, and we do not get another aid station until we come back over here. And then we will hopefully be able to get that other aid station there on Riverside Drive as well. And then this aid station is kind of like an aid station solely for the purposes of starting your second loop out there. I don't want to expect them, but I would see if this aid station is going to move on race day. Ask them if that is the real location when you do get there on the days before race day, and see if that course map lists it or puts it in a slightly different location. These aid stations are not all mandatory in my mind because they happen so frequently out here on race day. This is a great opportunity for you to gauge which one you really, really need. If you don't need it, and you've approached a couple of aid stations in less than 20 minutes, I mean, that's kind of up to you. So, how would we attack this aid station after that first little heat section over here? I told you how to do it on the first loop. Our second loop, things do change a little bit. This section right through here, climbing back out of our heat little bubble there, I would use this as kind of a springboard for the second loop. That first loop, you're just kind of gauging it. You're just trying to get up it. You're not going out too hard or aggressive, right? But that changes on the second loop if you're having a good day. If you're not having a great day, just maintain your pace. Just get up it. Don't be afraid to walk up that hill right there. And then on this section right through here, that whole back section after you get past that Riverside Road over there, that is go time, right? Now is the time to really kind of put the distance on people, catch up or pass or whatever, right? That is your opportunity to do so right here. And you're only going to do that if you've actively been thinking about what happened on the bike, your pacing. Do you need to refuel on that first loop and just kind of use it as let's get my bearings for this whole loop? But it's not going to be possible unless you do that on the first loop. So set your second loop up for success on the first loop, okay? Athletes typically run this race in reverse. If you're constantly chasing those PRs, the PR will run away from you, all right? Use what you know and what you've done up until this point for race day success, especially using those aid stations out there. All right, and that was our, let's definitely zoom in a little bit more for you here. And so this is our run course. On page 37, we have our rules over here. You can read that in your free time. Page 38 is going to have the exact same thing for you as the bike course, but a little bit different. Our mile markers are going to come in mile increments instead of 5-mile increments on the bike. Course arrows are also going to be slightly different. They're probably going to be a different color. These are green instead of the orange that was listed above on the bike. I don't know if they'll be able to tell you what those are ahead of time. They probably want to keep that a secret so people can't rip them up and stuff like that. Official course rules are located on page 40 right there. Divisions, open, hand cycle, physically challenged, all located on page 43. The reason that I keep scrolling down here is because of page 45, those violations. So think back to the bike section. I told you that things about the penalty tent. The blue card is a 5-minute penalty, and you must serve it on the bike course. That is like a drafting violation, a littering violation, a blocking violation is only a 30-second penalty. That's going to be a yellow card. So people on the motos are going to be flashing cards at you. They'll say, hey, number 1300, and you'll look over and they'll flash a card, kind of like a soccer match. Say, hey, you got a blue card, you got a yellow card, whatever. That red card is going to be an automatic disqualification. Some common things for the reasons for athletes to get violations are your helmet chin strap not connected, your race number on the run is not there, your littering, your unauthorized equipment, outside assistance, and the last one is a time penalty like drafting, intentional littering. You can get a penalty for any of the other violations. So again, read this and see and just make sure you're not doing anything crazy on race day, because if you do, you are going to get penalized for that. Page 47 is the medical policy of the race here. And one of my favorite things they do is page 53. They do an athlete checklist for you. Just common things to bring. This is a great starter list for you. So make sure you at least read that and go over that. So with that, everyone, that is our 2024 edition of our Eagleman 70.3 race happening in June. Again, can't thank you enough, Angie, our race director, for publishing this athlete guide way, way, way ahead of time. So again, Angie, you are the real superstar of our race so far, and as always, right? Good luck, everyone, on our 2024 edition. And if you need any specific info or advice or anything like that, please reach out to me. I'll leave some contact info down below. And with that, keep training, everyone. Have a good day.